there's our yellow light, so we're ready to go. We're in race condition right now.
Hello, I'm Cecil Schumacher. Behind me here you can see our factory in Northampton in England. This is where we design and manufacture our range of radio-controlled model racing cars. This video will enable you to get the best performance from your car by showing you the speed secrets used by our Schumacher team. You can then expect your car to achieve the level of performance which has enabled the Cat to win the World Championship. Let's go inside and meet Phil Davies, our Chief Development Engineer.
Hi, I'm going to go over a few details on what makes the Schumacher Cat the fastest car in the world. Every Cat has an instruction manual. We'll be referring to that. We'll start off with section 2. Step 2 shows the lay shaft. It's the differential lay shaft. Here there are two 21-tooth pulleys and a washer carrier. It's essential that this part works on the car very freely. To do this, we will take these two parts here and make sure that a 3.2mm drill or an 1/8 diameter drill passes through. The two parts should then spin freely on the shaft, like this. In the centre of the assembly is a small thrust race. In the middle there are some balls which need lubricating with a small amount of silicone grease. The grease is supplied in the kits. And the assembly should be put together carefully, as shown in the diagram. The washer on one end here should be glued using either epoxy adhesive, or you can use a small abrasive paper disc which can be superglued to the back of the washer, and then just merely friction will drive through the plastic. Now there's a small cross pin in the back. For ease of assembly, this can also be glued in place. Another crucial part of the gearbox is the integrator. This is the integrator. It works in a very similar way to the differential we've just seen. Here there are 3 pulleys. The centre one drives the centre belt to the front wheels. The other 2 connect to the other 2 to the 21-tooth pulleys on the lay shaft. In the middle of this there is a small shaft which incorporates a small thrust race. You can see here near the head of this screw. This has to be carefully assembled, again similar to the thrust race in the differential, lubricating the small balls with the silicone grease as described earlier. This passes through the centre of the integrator and pulls the whole thing together. At each end of the integrator we have to fit a bearing. This bearing has a brown shield on one side and a black shield on the other. The black shield should be placed towards the universal joint like this, and like this. In the centre of the integrator are washers. These washers should be attached using either epoxy or the abrasive paper discs as described earlier. When assembling these two parts into the transmission, you should make sure that there is a small amount of end float to ensure that they turn over freely when fully assembled. We will now move on to the drive shafts. Here we have a drive shaft and the universal joint assembly. There's a little cruciform here. Now the trick is to get this part into this forked part. There is a technique to doing this. If you place one of the legs into the fork at an angle, press it into place like this, and then gently slide it round whilst this end is still engaged. You then take your forked assembly tool and you can lever underneath the other fork like this, pushing up and then in. The two parts then click together like this. Similar process applies to the transmission outputs and the front drive shafts. We move on to step 8, which continues the transmission assembly. Here you can see the lay shaft differential here and the integrator shown in the transmission housing. There are two belts here and here which need adjusting, so there is approximately 2 millimeters of movement in the center of the belt, as you can see here. The tension of this is adjusted by these eccentric cams. The pointer here indicates its position. We continue the assembly of this by assembling the differential onto this lay shaft. On here there is a small bearing which is pushed over the shaft, which locates the gear. The gear here has balls as before, which need lubricating with silicone grease. Only a small amount is required. This is placed over the bearing. A small pin is then passed through the shaft. Onto that fits a small washer carrier like this, which drives through a slot in the centre. This is placed over the shaft, locates onto the pin, and the washers are then assembled onto the shaft as shown in the instruction book. And the nylock nut is very carefully tightened. At this stage it doesn't have to be very tight, just to hold the components together. Now we move on to the suspension. We should ensure that the suspension moves freely. All pivots should move with minimal resistance at both ends. Here we have a pivot ball, and here there is a pinch screw, which is more easily seen on this component here. By careful tightening of this screw, you can obtain minimal clearance and maintain a free action. Over tightening will result in the suspension becoming stiff, like this. This will not help the handling of your car. Should your suspension not move freely, use a sharp modelling knife or a file to remove a small amount of plastic from where the plastic may rub, hindering the movement. We'll now look at the steering on a near completed car. The steering has common pivots with the suspension at this end. These pinch screws at the end of the wishbones I mentioned earlier, if over tightened, will also slow down your steering, making the car unresponsive and may result in burnt out servos. It's very important to pay attention to making sure your suspension and steering are very free. Now looking at the rear of the car, we have two threaded adjusters here and here. These have left and right-handed threads. The left-handed thread is indicated by a small notch on the end of the hexagon section. You adjust these by screwing in and out to adjust the rear toe-in of the car. A small amount of toe-in is desirable. This aids to the stability of the car. Too much toe-in will slow the car down and may make it not turn in. Avoid excessive amounts of toe-in or toe-out. The shock absorbers are obviously a very important part of the suspension. Before commencing with the assembly of the shock absorber, to obtain a very free action, polish the shock absorber rod using a metal polish. When assembling the shock absorber rod into the assembly, into the seal pack, smear the rod with a small amount of oil. Ensure that the piston moves freely up and down the shock body before filling with oil, removing a small amount of plastic from the edge of the piston is quite acceptable to ensure the free action. After filling with oil and carefully making sure there is a minimal amount of air inside the shock absorber, you can then check a pair of shock absorbers against each other. In this manner. If both shock absorbers begin moving and finish moving at the same time when operated at different speeds, it would indicate they are damping at the same rate. If they're not, it would indicate the most probable cause would be friction in one or the other. Some oils contain seal swelling agents, which may cause the silicon seals in our shock absorbers to swell and therefore become stiff. These oils should be avoided. The results can be unusual. Other things that may affect the suspension are over-tightening of the shock absorber to the shock absorber brackets and to the wishbone ends at the front and rear. Ensure there is a small amount of play when attaching them. This ensures a free action. When setting the car up for tracks, try and run it as low as possible. This increases the stability of the car. Although towards the end of a meeting, when the track gets a little rougher, run the front of the car higher. This will increase its ability to ride those bumps better. We'll move on to why the car may be slowing down. Sometimes you'll find you've over-tightened the wheels. The single screw in the centre acts through the bearing. Over-tightening this can create the plastic part that passes through the bearings to swell and cause the bearings to create extra drag. The tyres for more important meetings can be glued on. This will avoid the problem of them coming off. There are small holes inside of the wheel where a small amount of super glue can be put. This will aid putting the glue in. If you're trying to put it around the outside, you tend to get it stuck on your fingers. Moving on to motor sprays now. The motor is situated here, which is directly above the Lexan of the under tray. When cleaning a motor with a spray, remove it from the car first, as most motor sprays will damage the Lexan under tray, causing it to disintegrate. The efficiency of the drivetrain of the Cat allows you to drive milder motors and higher gearing than other cars, so experiment using higher gearing and different motors. An important point when setting up your car is the correct selection of tyres. Tyres supplied with the Cat as standard are these. These tyres work at their best probably on grass, on grassy type surfaces, although they really are a very universal tyre. The spikes can be clipped to approximately half height, where you also get very good results on hard, dusty type surfaces. Moving on to another type of tyre, these have what we call a cut spike. They're slightly shorter and the tyre is actually slightly larger in diameter. The carcass is slightly larger in diameter. The overall diameter of the tyre is in fact the same. These tyres are designed to work in places where you would normally have used a cut standard tyre, i.e. on dusty type surfaces. The tyre is slightly more compliant, so it may make your car ride a little bit smoother over the bumps. Moving on to another type of tyre now, again aimed really at the sort of dirt surfaces, is a block pattern tyre. These, again, very good grip on the hard dusty surfaces. Another type of tyre again is the mini spike. These are slightly smaller than the other types of tyre we've seen. So the ride height of your car should be adjusted and the gearing adjusted approximately plus 10% on gearing to give you the same overall. So if you're running a 22 pinion, normally run a 22, etc. This tyre is a 6x20 spike. It's a very short spike again, but on a standard size of carcass. This gives exceptional grip on grass surfaces. It's almost universal wear now for most people running two-wheel drive because of the incredible grip it gives on grass. It works on almost any surface. If you have a lot of grip on grass, for instance, these tyres, which have a rib on one side and spikes on the other, can balance your car quite nicely, even a four-wheel drive on grass, where you have almost a surplus of grip. As racing on tarmac and on carpet with off-road cars increases, that you can use foam tyres. These with additive can give tremendous amounts of grip. This range of off-road tyres is available in two compounds, hard and soft, each giving a slightly different grip characteristic, and so can alter the handling of your car, maybe to suit you. Each tyre is designed and has a compound exclusive to Schumacher's. Always look for the Schumacher logo. The original is best. Inferior copies may cost you the race. After you've been racing, routine maintenance should not be overlooked. Let's move on to that. As part of your routine maintenance, especially after racing in wet conditions, is to clean your wheel bearings. As you know, your wheel bearing looks like this. Remove the shield using either a pin or a very small screwdriver. The bearing is now exposed and can be cleaned using a flushing compound or a degreaser. After degreasing, it's important that you re-lubricate the bearing. These bearings, as supplied standard in the kit, are non-stainless. They will rust. That's why it's very important to lubricate and maintain your bearings after you've been racing in the wet. Keep check on wishbone ends in case wear occurs. The cure is to tighten the clamp screws. Carefully tighten the screws so as not to restrict suspension movement or steering. Another area demanding regular maintenance is the tension band found on the front of the car. Should there be any signs of small cracks on the tension band, replace it immediately. It may cost you a race. To recap, check all screws for tightness, particularly the ones in the hub carriers. Check all your pins are pushed home in the wishbones. Make sure the car is kept clean. Check all your wiring is kept neat and tidy. If in doubt, refer to the manual. Everything that you need to know, you'll find in here. If you do prepare your car, as said in here, as I've spoken to you, you too could win something like this. Now let's go over to Jamie, who's on the track.
Hello, my name's Jamie Booth. I'm a Schumacher Racing team member, and I'd just like to show you a few points to check on your car before you go out racing. Before you go out racing, you must always check the differential. This is done by holding the left and right rear wheels and trying to move the spur gear forwards, like so. As can be seen, there's no drive. This is easily adjusted by the use of a small box spanner, pushed over the nut, and turn the left-hand rear wheel backwards until there is enough drive for full drive. As can be seen, that's full drive. Also, you must check the rear belts before you go out. That is done by holding the right-hand rear wheel and the gear, like so, and trying to twist the left-hand rear wheel forward. As can be seen, the belts are okay. If the belts are jumping at that point, you must stop then and tighten the rear belts up. After checking the rear diff, we must now check the integrator at the rear and the front diff. This is done by pulling the back wheels up in the air, holding them, and pulling the car backwards. As you can see, the front wheels are not driving, and also the belt has moved backwards. This tells us that the integrator is loose. This is easily adjusted with a screwdriver, just placing the screwdriver into the diff shaft and tightening like so. Now to recheck, hold the wheels again, pull the car backwards, and as you can see the front wheels are now driving. If it's the long belt that's moving, it's the integrator which is loose. If the long belt isn't moving, then it's the front differential which is loose. If the car doesn't have complete four-wheel drive, then it's very difficult to drive. Now let's take a look at towing in. It is important on a car that the wheels should point straight ahead or have small amounts of tow in. Tow in is when the distance between here and here is smaller than the distance between here and here. Tow in will aid stability on slippery tracks. Right, let's take a look at bump steer. Bump steer is it's very important that the wheels remain pointing straight ahead through the full travel of the suspension movement. This is the anti-roll bar. I often run with the front anti-roll bar fitted, although under extreme slippery conditions it is often good to remove the front anti-roll bar as this increases the steering. Careful preparation and adjustment of your Schumacher Cat will bring great satisfaction and hopefully race success. Good luck with your racing.
Well, you've seen our speed secrets now. The rest is up to you. Good luck with your racing and enjoy yourself.